I was asking them, is this all on location? Seems like, and they said it all was, but that particular scene in front of the blue neon sign, and they said that the car shots of them talking though was done in a studio, and then they just like rebuilt the sign and then added like extra lights. But I love it that it just like dark shadows and just pure blue light. Again, the contrast with the like red and green in the first scene and like the red and orange once they're in the hotel. It just has its own whole vibe to it.
I know it isn't true. No, it isn't true.
Gotcha. Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2023/2024 film, Strange Darling, directed by JT Molnar. Now, Strange Darling is a horror thriller. There's going to be spoilers in this one. If you haven't seen this movie, please, like we always do spoilers, but I'm telling you right now, if you have not seen this movie, go in blind. That is the best way to see it. Essentially, what we've got here is a one-night stand that turns into a twist and turn non-linear story of a serial killer on a killing spree. So
yeah, you know,
I guess we're going all in.
There's no other way. There's no other way, because the first thing they tell you when you start the movie, they say this is a real thing that happened. This is the account of a serial killer's last day, but it's not true.
Yeah, all fiction. And I love that. I forgot about that title scroll. It's straight out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you've seen the original, like 1974,
right?
The same scroll, like even written a very similar way, the narration and all that. They just needed John Larroquette, and then it would have been total Texas Chainsaw.
That's what a weird casting to have him.
Yeah,
you know. But the other thing besides that clever ruse that they really tipped me over. I believe that. I thought it was a real, like, holy mackerel, this really happened. This is like,
I had a couple of people ask me that.
I actually
like,
respected the killer. It was like, to do this amount of damage, you know. And then the other thing that makes this movie extra shocking and weird is they do it in 6 chapters, but they don't show them to you in the right sequence.
Yeah.
So you see like what almost happened at the end first.
Yeah.
And then you see the very beginning, and then you see the middle of the story, and then it's back to just after the beginning. So somehow, I don't know how the creator of this had that concept, but it made it really extra creepy.
Yeah.
Because you know, oh no, she's in the box. She's in there. Like you're like the guy's like he's going through the house, and you're like, don't look in the box, you know, like. And that really did a number on me. Yeah,
it's so great. It's very cleverly done, and I said this to some friends that what I love about it, and it shows great direction, not just in the nonlinear storytelling, but I think even if you did have it in order, you know, it would still be a great movie. Like, it would still work as like a really fun thriller, maybe not as on the edge of your seat, you know, but it could work both ways. But obviously they did it in the absolute best way they could have done it, to just keep it twist and turn. You don't quite know where it's going to go. He's the bad guy, she's the bad guy now, or it's wild.
Yeah. They really did keep the fact that she was the serial killer. There is spoiler number 1.
Yeah.
The fact that she was the serial killer is not really recognized till halfway through.
Yeah.
And because he's not, what's going to really happen? Like, how is she going to, because the very first thing they show you is her like escaping through the woods. And so, you know, at some point she's going to be escaping, but escaping from who? And you see the guy with the gun. Well, it's obviously escaping from him. No. Now, I shouldn't be stealing your thunder in a lot of this, and you're a professional photographer, and you know a lot about film and everything. So the fact that this was shot on 35 millimeter film was evident.
Yeah, and they announced it with that very first title card, shot in glorious 35 millimeter.
Yeah, and then you see like the film grain. You don't realize, I'm not hip to that.
Yeah.
I just see the story.
Yeah.
You know, but since they told me, it was like, wow, and it looked good, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really went to show you what you could do. Then, in addition to the story itself and everything, was the lighting. Everybody knows Pablo Picasso had that blue period where he made those blue paintings or something. They had a lot of scenes. I didn't know if it was a blue filter or blue lighting.
That's blue lighting.
everything was cast in blue, in an eerie, icy cold blue kind of thing. And then much later in the movie, once all the cards were on the table, now they did it with red. One of the really creepy things with the red was she, all through the movie, is wearing a black brassiere and red panties. So when she goes off on her own, like into the bathroom or whatever, they have it on heavy red light and her underwear disappears. So she's like, you see her essentially naked, but no genitals.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, there was nothing lewd or lurid.
Yeah.
In her nakedness. And that was a real weird part too. That was another one of those things that if I was making the movie, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
The genius of so many of these filming techniques, and it wasn't cheap stuff where they went like this with the camera or something. It was, I say it in many of our reviews that you need to see the movie more than once, and that's certainly the case with this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was lucky enough to see it 3 times in theaters. I saw it twice at the Vista.
No wonder you recommended it. Rudy did recommend this, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Twice at the Vista on 35 millimeter projection, and then once at Alamo Draft House. And one thing that's cool is, so a couple of friends of mine were actually the line producers. One of them was the executive producer on this. They worked for Miramax, which was part of what put this out. And I went to Austin, Texas in September 2023 for a wedding, and Beyond Fest was happening. And this actually premiered there. That's why in the beginning I said 2023/24, because it got its full release this past August. But what was cool was I went to not like their rap party, but they like rented out a bar after the festival premiere, and I got to go and I met the director and a couple of the other people that, I didn't see the movie yet, but I got to chat with them a little bit. So that was really nice. So I was really looking forward to this for a long time, like almost the whole year.
Right.
And
because only you knew. It was like a secret. And would it even be released?
Yeah.
But oh my God.
It blew me away, man. And it's all right, cool. Yeah. I know the people that worked on it. It's cool. They're saying it's good. Yeah, we're going to check it out. And it's quite possibly my favorite movie of 2024. I got to look back and remind myself everything that came out, but I'm pretty sure this is number 1 for me.
There's a vacancy in this kind of movie. This is very unique this year.
Yeah.
There's nothing remote, like you almost forgot.
Yeah.
You're so used to seeing like Spider-Man or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is the real deal.
Yeah. It almost feels like this is something that would have come out in the 90s, like in that independent boom in the early mid 90s.
Well, you know what? You mentioned Miramax. And one of the things that bugs me in movie credits is sometimes you see like 15 production companies in conjunction with, an association with, and yet you don't recognize these names and you're like, who cares? It's a stack deck production. Who the heck are they? Right? But there's I think maybe was 2 other production companies that added to this, but it's really a Miramax film. This seemed boutique to me. It didn't seem like a big studio blockbuster kind of a thing. It seemed very boutique, not low budget in its quality, but it had very limited settings.
Yeah.
And there was not a really lot of stunt work or stuff like that. There was no big explosions.
Yeah.
Like
I guess the biggest thing would be the car chase in the opening of the movie, which is a hell of a way to start it. Like her running in slow motion, right, as the credits are going, and she just runs into that close up. That almost has like a kind of Western movie, like spaghetti Western kind of vibe to me, the freeze frame, and then just right into this car chase. And they really paint him in a bad light, because at this point you think he's the bad guy, he's the demon, right? They call him,
right?
And he's just like driving angry and doing the cocaine. So you're like, oh, this dude's a nut job. And obviously, as we find out, that's not quite the case. But to go back to the cinematography of it, and we were talking about it a little bit pre-recording. They were just super intentional with picking the colors, and it's like the lighting and all that stuff. I feel becomes a lot easier when you have just the correct settings. And I love that they really played on like the red against the green, like when he's chasing her through the woods and she's got the red scrubs, he's got the red flannel, and you're with the green, foliage background and the sun pouring through the leaves. So you get a little yellow. And then I remember when he goes into the house, the Barbara Hershey Ed Begley Jr. house, And it's like one room is like the red wallpaper, another room is all white, another room is all yellow, and it's like you hit all the colors, you know. It's just amazing.
That house was so macked out.
Yeah.
That was the most decorated, the most like for a country house or something. They had every cliche possible on steroids.
Yeah.
That was your grandmother's house. Like only in a fantasy world is there a house that dynamite, and this whole thing was shot in Oregon. So that house is somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and those rich, happy people living there, you know. And you mentioned Barbara Hershey, and I'm an old man. And part of being an old man is that you can find an old woman attractive.
Right.
You know? And I saw her and I thought, I know who she is. You know, I didn't remember when she was young, when I was young. You know? It was like, my God, she's still beautiful. Like, she's really beautiful. Now, for you probably just see her as an old lady. But for me, I was like, wow, she really aged well. And she's actually in the movie was older than, like in real life, she's not as that old.
Right.
You know, they olded her up a little bit or something. But even then, it shined through. Like, you sort of can't suppress that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow. Now, Ed Begley Jr., on the other hand, I got no love for that guy, you know. No. But it was shocking. They made him look a lot older, too.
Yeah,
They really made an old man out of him, and it was shocking to me because I bought it. I went like, wow, Ed Begley really got old, because he was Ed Begley Jr. There was an Ed Begley Sr. that was like in Western movies and stuff. Right. Now he's the old guy.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that in the review, how attractive I thought that she was. And I really appreciated that. And there were weird cliche things. You mentioned the car chase scene, which was absolutely savage.
Yeah, love it.
And when the psycho killer says, I really don't want to kill you. Is there somewhere I can tie you up and I can escape and you'll be okay? Yeah. And she says, we're doomsday preppers. You could put me in the shed. I got food in there for 6 months. You know, and I thought that was really cool. All right, well, let's put you in there. You know, it was
she's like, I just want you to be comfortable.
Right, yeah.
Just killed your husband, but.
The other scene, since you mentioned the car thing, was when she gets the Pinto, she goes in the motel lobby and she says, to make a long story short and not to have too many spoilers, she says, I need your clothes, because she's in her underwear. She says, I need your clothes and I need your car. She gives her the car keys and she says, which one is it? She says, it's the 1978 Ford Pinto. She goes, You're
really?
Really?
Yeah. Really?
But the car was so immaculate that it was like, I love that car. Like, now I want, I like the wagon, the two-door wagon. That was the good one, right? But it struck me funny that they used that car. And that's because, remember, I was still believing that it was a true story. So it was like, well, when did this happen? And God, they actually had like a mint condition Pinto, you know. And I will say, on behalf of the Pinto, it did survive the crash really well, didn't it?
Yeah,
for a car that
sure
flipped,
did. Yeah, sure did.
They don't make them like that anymore, you know. But
I was going to ask, while we're somewhat still, you know, on the subject of the mountain people, as they call them, Barbara Hershey and Ed Begley Jr., you know, we get introduced to them in this little breakfast making montage. What were your thoughts? Like when it got to that scene and you're just watching the breakfast making montage with the obscene amounts of butter and
the most high cholesterol, greasy, you know, like and the amount, like old people can't eat that much.
Right.
You know, you're not going to have a 5-layer thing with maple syrup on it and, you know, every kind of sausage and bacon and eggs and
whipped cream, more syrup, more like a whole other stick of butter. Yeah. How'd you take that?
I just thought that was cute and hilarious.
Yeah.
And that just two like stoners. Yeah. Because you would do that when you were high. You would do that, right? Like, let's make a spaghetti and meatball sandwich, you know, with pickles, you know. Yeah, I just thought that was real fun.
Yeah.
I busted Ed Begley Jr. and I told you about that before we went. And that was, he says to her, I'm not really an old hippie. I'm really an old biker. I got a 59 Indian in the garage. Well, all America knows that Indian went out of business in 53, right? So much for that, Ed.
I bring up that breakfast scene, and I'm just curious of the take on it, because at this point, we've already seen some like pretty wild stuff in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
And it really kind of comes out of nowhere and breaks it up, and it's so funny. And I like to talk to people about it because that's a part that I feel like in any other movie would have come across really stupid. and really pointless. And like, what the hell is happening? Why are we like, what is this? Why are we suddenly doing this? But somehow it works. And I love how efficiently it endears you to that couple, because they don't have a lot of speaking lines or anything. But now you're like, oh, they're cute. They're fun. Like, oh, they're doing their scope. They're just
Very
there
lovable.
with their coffee. So you're immediately, just because of that funny little scene, you care about them. So there's a lot more impact when they both just get murdered, out of nowhere.
They didn't both get murdered.
Well, eventually.
Only he did.
She got killed later.
No.
Yeah, remember when she's in the police car and then she's on the road and the cops stop and they're like, yo, what's up? And they're like, we were killed, this lady, and she sees her in the car and she gets shot in the head. Barbara Hershey gets shot in the head.
Oh,
remember that?
That's right. She returns.
Yeah, because she's on the road as the cops are leaving.
Yeah, that was a nice clean shot.
Yeah, that was dude, that was a moment, and I something bad's gonna happen. They just hold the camera on her, and there was I saw it at like a pretty packed theater at the Vista, and people screamed in that moment. Like no one was expecting her to just get shot in the head. Like screams all over. Such a great moment. I mean, it's sad.
And then since the gun was out, now she had the two police. Yeah. She's okay. You, the chick cop.
Yeah.
You're going to go take a walk. I don't want to kill you. You, on the other hand, we don't know.
I do. That is.
When I saw the blood splash on the window.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that she killed the man cop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It took me. I thought he was going to somehow
get out of it.
She was going to just keep the car and something like that.
Yeah.
But it was pretty clear because she had that change of face where she becomes the other person.
She's seeing the demon or whatever.
And she told him he says like, why did you do that? And she goes, sometimes I see people as demons. And then it was like,
I am glad because I wanted him to make it out. And I'm at least glad that they did me the solid of having the shot, like the camera outside.
Right.
And I'm not seeing his head get blown off. Because I was like, I don't need that again. And we just saw it happen to Barbara. But I do like that funny moment when the cops do get there and he's trying to tell his partner, like, hey, we don't even know if she's a victim. We have to call it in. That's procedure. And she starts bringing up this whole like sexist thing. And he's like, it has nothing to do with that, but everything to do with the fact that I was clearing up my first crime scene when you were still in diapers or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And when And when we get to the point, he reluctantly is like, fucking fine. Okay.
So you know what killed that fine officer? Political correctness.
Yeah.
The woman cop was like, she's a victim. She's raped. She's crying. She's handcuffed to the thing. She's all, that's the setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I do like that moment though. And when Barbara gets killed and they do find out she has a gun on the cops now, as we just said, and when he's not even upset that she has a gun, but he's more mad at his partner, he's just like, you dumb bitch. He's I had told you I should just let her kill me. And I feel that frustration. He's just so angry. He's like, well, now I'm going to die because you didn't want to
because of your
clear the crime scene appropriately. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And he was right. He was right. Don't assume, don't make assumptions or presumptions when you see something that's off the chain like that.
Yeah.
It's like everybody has to calm down and you have to secure the area.
I do like when he's in the car with her alone, when she says the I see demons thing. And we get some insight into how, I guess, famous she is just by him looking in the mirror and saying, are you really the electric lady?
Right.
Yeah. Like she's somebody and she's just like, that's me.
Yeah, she was a famous serial killer in Oregon in the story, and he did have that moment in the story.
Yeah.
Where he was never thought that he would actually meet her. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, you're the electric lady. And I mean, she carved her initials into the
other guy,
police officer's chest, right? She really was trying to show that she was, and I didn't get that. I saw the EL, but I don't think they had mentioned yet, or I didn't catch it.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they said it out loud until we're with the cop in the car.
Right. And it was like, that's why it was EL. That's why she carved the EL into his chest. And man, that scene with the ketamine was over the top. Right. She shows him a bag of cocaine. She says, we're going to do this before we have sex. Right.
Yep.
He says, okay, I'll do a little of that, and she pours a line out for herself. And then she's got another jar and she pours a line, a special K for him. I do my line. Now you do yours.
Yeah.
He does it. And in 5 minutes, he's incapacitated. He's laying there.
I love that they use a split diopter for that shot too. So you see him in focus in the background and her close up in focus doing it. Like just a lot of kind of 70s tactics in this movie, which is great.
Right.
The use of zoom lenses and stuff like that. I love it. Their dialogue, I mean, you talk about when they're bathed in that blue light in the car, you know, when we first see like their dialogue together. And
and it was even raining, right?
I don't think it was raining.
No. It was a very like a dark night scene.
Yeah, it was purely, well, and one cool little fun fact I learned, I actually recorded a podcast for Drinks and a Movie with my two friends that worked on this just last week. I don't know when I'm going to put it out in relation to this, but I was asking them, is this all on location? Seems like, and they said it all was, but that particular scene, because they pull up to the hotel or motel in front of the blue neon sign, and they said that the car shots of them talking though was done in a studio, and then they just like rebuilt the sign and then added like extra lights. But I love it that it's just like dark shadows and just pure blue light. Again, the contrast with the like red and green in the first scene and like the red and orange once they're in the hotel. It just has its own whole vibe to it. And I do like their exchange and their dialogue. It just feels very authentic and, flirtatious. But
the key there was she said, look, if you and me are going to have this blind date, we just met and everything. And she goes, it's dangerous for a woman, you know? Like, I want you to look in my eyes. You're not a serial killer, are you? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, she's a serial killer.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm a good guy. And she's like, I believe you. Mm-hmm. I believe you're a good guy. And we're going to get that room together. And, and interestingly enough, they never do really have sex, do they?
Yeah. That's another just so funny to me, that whole back and forth. And there's so much tension of they're doing their kind of kinky thing. And then she breaks out of it and gets upset, but she's joking with them. And then they do it again. And then you think he's for real. Like, oh, he's going to
0 to 9.
And then it backs off again. And that actor, Kyle Gallner, is so good at portraying that frustration as like,
but controlled.
Very controlled. But that frustration, but playing it cool, being stoic still. But it gets to that point where it's like, are we going to do this or what? And this chick keeps going back and forth on me and wants to do it, doesn't want to do it. Fake cries. Now she's laughing. It's just being all crazy. And he's like, okay. And then the cocaine comes out and he's like, I don't do that stuff anymore. But, it's my birthday. He's like, all right, sure, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah, that was, that
I'll
was
do
totally,
a little bit. Yeah.
That was totally ridiculous.
But of course, every guy is going to keep, because they're trying to get to the level, they're trying to score.
I did love it that after he starts to come out of the K, right? He can actually get up now and everything. The first thing he does is go over to the miror and
to get himself juiced up,
coke backed up, which is what you would do.
Yeah,
I got to counteract this somehow. I got to snap out of this somehow. I thought that was funny that he knew to do that and did it.
Yeah.
And that was good writing and good, what would you, it's sitting right there.
Yeah.
And then he had to go get her. He had to get that rifle and go out there and, wow, man. And then that's when the car chase was.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't in sequence in the movie.
And I do love, I forget how shocking this is the first time when after she carves it into him and she comes back and she's about to do the final blow and he shoots her ear off. Because they show the close up early in the movie of him putting the gun in his
boot.
In his boot.
His leg holster.
Yeah, and we don't see it at all until that point. And I remember thinking too, I'm like, all right, he's gotta get to it, and he does, and that's just such a great moment, the high pitched ringing, and it's just so shocking.
Because even to that point and all through, he never did get his pants down.
Yeah, I get really bummed out that Kyle Gallner, I don't think they ever say his name, but he's the guy who's pursuing her, that he ends up getting killed in the end. Because at this point, I want so badly for him to catch her. And he does. He gets her in the cooler, handcuffs her, but then
that's only a wound that adds to the urgency and speed of everything. He doesn't kill her there,
Well, I like that he says too, because she thinks she's going to get finished off, and he's like, "I'm not about to go to jail for this. Like, I'm going to call my friend, the cop, and he's going to come in, like,
going to explain the whole thing with you handcuffed to the freezer.
Yeah, like I'll get in trouble, but I'm not serving time for killing you.
Right.
Again, that control, right? And I just get so bummed that he doesn't make it out. Like, it's a shame. But jumping to the end, I'm glad that she at least gets her comeuppance.
Oh yeah.
And
and in such a great way. Don't spoiler alert that. Don't you know, that's a real good American death. You know? And I will also say, when he's chasing her in the truck and he pulls the truck over and climbs up into the bed and shoots at her,
yeah,
that's a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be really composed to shoot a moving target at that distance with a rifle like that. And that was that looked like a 308 to me. I'm not sure.
The very last shot of the movie, the long shot in the car of her, and then the color drains out, is one of the best shots I've ever seen. And her acting throughout the whole movie, but then getting to that point, I've never seen anyone portray that to that extent in anything ever before. I think it's incredible. I think the use of how long it goes on and how the colors slowly desaturate into black and white is brilliant. And it's one of the best shots I've seen. How'd you feel about the very ending? Because I can see it maybe putting some people off, but God, was it a stroke of genius.
The art of making movies now is so high. These people are so good.
Yeah.
Every single, the lighting guys are good. The audio guys are good. The makeup guys, all that. Yeah, that whole scene it was a movie in itself. We just watched that Wolfman movie where he changes into the Wolfman, and you said it was impressive, the transformation. This was equally like, you really saw her die.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like,
she's just hanging on for dear life. And you wild.
Knew, she already had 2 wounds.
Yeah.
Bullet wounds.
Yeah.
I really believe that at a certain point, you accept your death.
Right.
You're on the battlefield, your guts are blown out, and you're like, okay, this is where and when and how it happens for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep now. I'm not going to wake up. And I can't imagine what that feeling is, and no one can describe it because you have to die to do it. But accepting your fate that way, I've never seen it portrayed as like manic, like nobody goes out screaming.
Right.
It seems like almost like everybody, even if it's a violent death, it's somehow at the end it's peaceful. Like at the end, it's just like you sort of like, like when you're watching TV in the evening, your eyes close, you don't even realize they're closed.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I got to believe it's something like that. I wonder.
Yeah, and she kind of, because we hold that shot for a while, just quite a long time. And you see her go through a little bit of that, like the shock, and then like reaching for the other gun, and then she like can't do it. And her eyes just kind of start watering, and it's like disbelief.
Because she did have a second gun.
Yeah, she was like strapped, loaded up, but then like the eyes watering and this look of like disbelief, like this is it, like this is how I'm going out. It's just a brilliant shot. It's struck by genius, and her acting chops are incredible. All of them in this movie, Kyle Gallner too. But her and I've never seen her in anything before, and I hope her career just blows up after this. And I think too, when the director and casting people, like producers, whoever found her, I wonder what that audition process was and what the edge she had against other people was. And then obviously she was the perfect person. I can't imagine, even if they said, hey, you can have any actor on planet Earth that you want to do this part, it's got to be her. It's got to be her.
Job.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone else could have played that part.
Yeah.
But not any better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really appreciate you recommending this movie. And by the way, let me turn to the middle camera and say this. Rudy is very modest. He mentioned earlier in this thing that on Drinks in a Movie, something had happened. And that is his YouTube channel. And I watched it recently, and I was kind of addicted. I watched several episodes. They were very interesting, and it's very different than this show, and it's worth checking. Drinks in a Movie. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't give a shameless plug like this, but I have no problem doing it because I enjoyed it so much this week. I went on there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I saw some really good drink reviews, And Rudy is not a heavy drinking alcoholic or anything, but you do know your spirits.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear.
I'm in it.
So that's just a shameless plug for him.
Yeah, thanks.
And I can't not give this movie a 10. I think it was flawless in every way, every way, imagination-wise, writing the story, all that stuff, all the execution. The actors were all great. Even Ed Begley Jr. did his part. And I'll say this to the broader audience too. How do you not know about this?
Right.
I do movie reviews. I'm watching somehow this went in the theater. I didn't see it. And I can't believe I missed it. I saw lots of stupid stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that movies are out there that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
And I got to wonder, and that's why I say in many of these episodes, in the comments, if you know something that you've seen that was so dynamite, there's a movie, I think it's from Denmark, it's called Adam's Apples.
Okay.
And maybe we'll find it and review it, but it's another one of those things like I'm the only person I know that ever saw this, but it got awards like in Denmark, or something, but it's so funny. And it's comprehensively funny.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what we're missing half the time. And until 2 or 3 nights ago, I didn't even know about this, and now I'm telling everybody.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of this kind of thing, you like slasher movies, horror movies, whatever, this kind of heavy drama, man, oh man, this is right up there with the best.
Yeah. And it's a fun ride too. It's a good 95 minutes, gets you in, gets you out, not a wasted moment, just balls to the wall, fun, funny, scary, shocking, everything. I will give this one a 10 as well. And again, most likely my favorite movie of the year. I think it's got to be. So yeah, hopefully you watch it before listening to this. Yeah, we got a little bit of time. We'll see. Everyone, thanks for watching and checking it out. As Fred said, if you've got any recommendations, leave one in the comments. Cheers.